Good morning, children. Today let us start chemistry in everyday life. What do you mean by chemistry in everyday life? The chemicals which are useful to our daily life. Actually, they are the medicines. All the medicines are chemical compounds. Okay. Now, these are also called drugs. The first the first chemical is antacids. Already you know what are antacids. Antacids are the chemicals which are used to the overproduction of the acid in the stomach. It causes irritation and pain. So in severe cases, ulcers are also developed. Okay. Now until 1917, only treatment for acidity was administration of the antacids. Okay, such as sodium hydrogen carbonate or a mixture of aluminium and magnesium hydroxides. Now these chemicals are only temporary basis. Okay, so with the metal salts are there. So the treatment control only symptoms and not the cause. So therefore with these metal salts, the patients cannot be treated easily. So in advanced stages, ulcers becomes life-threatening and its only treatment is removal of the affected area of the stomach. So antacids are the chemicals, are the drugs which are used to neutralize the overproduction of the acid in the stomach. Actually, they contain a chemical which is known as histamine. It stimulates the secretion of the pepsin and hydrochloric acid in the stomach. The drug is Zantac and ranitidine. These two are the drugs. Here, children, only you have to learn the definition and the examples of the drugs. Now, next is antihistamines. What do you mean by antihistamines? Histamine is a potent vasodilator. It has various functions. It contracts the smooth muscles in the bronchi and gut and relaxes the other muscles. Histamine is also responsible for the nasal congestion associated with common cold and allergic response to pollen. Okay. Now, the drug example is brompheniramine. Now, next is chemical tranquilizers. Tranquilizers and analgesics are neurologically active drugs. These affect the message transfer mechanism, okay, from nerve to receptor. Now, these tranquilizers are also known as antidepressant drugs. Tranquilizers are a class of chemical compounds used for the treatment of the stress, mild or even severe mental diseases. These relieve anxiety, stress, irritability or excitement by inducing a sense of well-being. They are also an essential component of the sleeping pills. The examples are Equinel, Seconal, Veronal, Luminal. Now, these derivatives are also called barbiturates. What we call, children? Barbiturates. Seconal, Luminal, and they are also antidepressant drugs. Next is analgesics. What are the fourth drug is analgesics. Children, the chemical formulas non-evaluated. Only 4-5 sentences about the drug and only the chemicals you have to learn down. Note down. Analgesics, they reduce or abolish pain without causing any impairment of consciousness, mental confusion, incoordination or paralysis or some disturbances of the nervous system. So they are of two types. One is non-narcotic drugs. One is non-narcotic drugs. And the second is is narcotic drugs. Second is narcotic drugs. Now, what do you mean by non-narcotic drugs? Non-narcotic drugs are non-addictive analgesics. They are actually aspirin, paracetamol. They belong to non-narcotic drugs. They are not addictive. Now, aspirin is the most familiar example. Aspirin inhibits the synthesis of chemical known as prostaglandins, which stimulate inflammation of the tissue and cause pain. Now, these drugs have many other effects such as reducing fever, antipyretic, and preventing platelet coagulation. So, therefore, aspirin is used in the heart patients in the form of the blood thinner. Okay, and aspirin finds use in prevention of heart attacks, narcotic analgesics, morphine, and many of its homologs. When administered in small doses, they relieve pain and produce sleep. But in poisonous doses, these produce stupor, coma, convulsions, and they ultimately lead to death. Okay. Now next is antibiotics. Antibiotics, fifth chemical, antibiotics. Penicillin is the best example for antibiotics. Antibiotics are used as drugs to treat infections because of their low toxicity for humans and animals. Now, these antibiotics are classified into two types, narrow spectrum and broad spectrum. Narrow spectrum antibiotic can be used to cure only one disease, and broad spectrum, the same drug, the same chemical compound can be used to cure various diseases. The other example, chloramphenicol is a broad spectrum antibiotic which is isolated in 1947, and it is rapidly absorbed from gastrointestinal tract and hence can be given orally in case of typhoid, dysentery, acute fever, and certain form of urinary infections, pneumonia. The same chloramphenicol, children, can be used to cure various drugs. Okay, children?